this whole idea of, it started with this article that I saw, and I was on this last night. I didn't realize it. But here's where we're at, okay? We'll start with this, and then I'll explain what it means in just a second here, and loop it all the way back around. So this is what I'm thinking, okay? So not just the ley line in conjunction of Washington, D.C., and the other aspect of sort of these power spots or power spaces, especially I imagine it's surging in sort of an election year, right? That type of power happening. But listen to this. This is from a website called, what is this called? It's called MikeMorrell.org. It's under Martin Luther Zen, and I was just kind of vibing on some old music and saw this, and this is all the way back from 2007. And look how smart this is. I was thinking about this last night, and then today kind of just steamrolled further into this idea. But here we go. It seems that the desire for a fresh start is an all-pervasive impulse in art, in faith, in life. Why do you suppose this is? Reformation, innovation, is this too morphine? Are we now more inclined towards spiritual and societal evolution and composting as continuation metaphors rather than disruptive ones? Very smart thought. And it of course leads us right back to where we get tonight, meaning that this whole election cycle stuff, that just the stress of all these articles back to 2020, managing election stress, and it's absurd. Just the amount of just pressure they put on this moment in November. It's just it's exhausting. It's incredibly exhausting. But back to the sort of the spiritual singularity of this. It seems like in these fights, in these sort of dualistic, binary, winner take all sort of battle that we're fighting against with each other for things like change. We're fighting for the old ways. We're fighting for old ideas versus new ideas, and how these all sort of clash together, if you catch my meaning here. And it got me thinking, again, back to that sort of seed idea from last night, which I didn't realize would resonate all throughout the day, but it was totally stuck in my mind. But it turns out that it seems like most of the stuff, not just politically, but maybe everything that we're doing, maybe even here on Troubled Minds, we're sort of part of that larger zeitgeist of that conversation in terms of fighting for something. And it may be fighting for change in some cases. It may be fighting against change in other cases. But basically, it got me thinking, if this sort of political cycle, the news cycles, and all of this 4-year presidential cycles, and Washington, D.C. being sort of in the crux of the crosshairs of maybe a ley line conjunction is intentional. And maybe all of this is actually, well, let's say real. And a few things now in celebration of today, Thursday, some random day, and what day is it? Some random day in the second week of February. That's the 8th, actually. But we also had, just as an aside, because I was using a new Google product to run the write-up for this article tonight. And you may have heard of Google Bard, and I'm just throwing this out there as an FYI if you guys didn't know. But they just rolled out Google Gemini, which is sort of the new AI version of the new beastie Google AI that's supposed to be better than ChatGPT and all the rest of the competitors, right? We'll see. I use it tonight. It is pretty impressive. And I told it to make the case, okay, with let's say ley lines, and actually ley lines on DC for a specific example. Now, read just a little bit of this, okay? It said, well, the science is unclear on ley lines, and DC is, it just doesn't line up, okay? And I said, okay, well, throw the science out and let's just consider the possibilities, okay? Yeah, exactly. Gemini, Bard's twin. Yeah, exactly right. So here we go. This is what it said, okay? Let's set aside the limitations of the scientific method for a moment and delve into the realm of imagination. What if the whispers of ley lines hold a truth beyond the reach of microscopes and test tubes? Here's how Washington, D.C. could be the nexus of unseen energy. 1, ancient knowledge. Let's see, wait, blah, 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 blah. Okay, that's not what I wanted. Anyway, I'll read a little bit of it so you can see it. It's very smart, but it's also very not smart when you ask it for. I'll see if I can coax some more out of it in specific, because I wanted evidence. I wanted like this parallel and this and matches with this. It didn't do that. But anyway, so okay. Imagine whispers of forgotten civilizations attuned to subtle Earth energies, choosing this very spot for its unique geomantic properties. Perhaps alignments with celestial bodies or specific mineral deposits created a potent energetic field. This knowledge, passed down through generations, might be lost to history, but the echoes linger in the land. And of course, we do know there's a lot of this type of ideas with the native tribes that were here for a very long time, and not just here, the world over, with different resonant areas where maybe they built their civilizations, and where what about the cradle of civilization and those twins, not these Gemini, but the other twins, Romulus and Remus, that founded Rome. There's a lot of really weird spaces and sort of how the power centers of the world came to be, and the idea that ley lines played some role in that whole thing. But anyway, so back to this and back to the idea and how it all fits together. Like I said, it feels like we're fighting for change, but it also feels like we're fighting against change. Sort of that, again, the duality, the binary aspects of competition and the rest of that stuff. But it got me thinking back to this original quote, and this will loop it all the way back around. And then I got some questions for you guys tonight. But it goes back to this exactly. Now think about this again in the context of the things I was discussing. It seems that the desire for a fresh start is an all-pervasive impulse in art, in faith, and in life. And it seems like that's exactly what we're dealing with here, with not just, it's manifesting more ugly, more in your face on the political spectrum. But I do think that this is exactly what we desire. We desire to really break down the old ideas and recreate them. It's as if we don't have enough faith in the things we've built and the things that got us this far. And so as a result, are we actually trying to continually and forever break down faith itself, destroy it, reform it in, let's say, let's call it a spiritual singularity, something to this effect, right? Something you can never actually achieve, but something you're always chasing and ready to just eschew the gods of old for the gods of tomorrow. That's the question. And that's exactly what's on my mind tonight as we begin this discussion, because this whole thing to me is, like I said, it's disheartening a couple things. It's heartening that people can be incredibly passionate about things, okay? Incredibly passionate about things. It's disheartening in the same breath that the things that we're incredibly passionate about are manipulated, are mass media washing out our ideas, right? Just the whole bit, okay? And this is what I mean. And it fits into UFOs too, okay? And that whole, 40 and stuff, the paranormal aspect, everything, sort of the quickening. I think this is where we're at. And I think we feel like in the moment, it's never good enough. We're never good enough. We're never smart enough. We're never fast enough. Our technology isn't on par with what we need it to be. Even though we're leaps and bounds better than we were technologically even mere weeks ago, it's growing at an incredible rate. But still somehow, instead of renewing the old ways and honoring where we came from, it seems like we're stuck in this cycle of stripping it down for something new. And little did I know that that's really what Troubled Minds has been about all along. All of this. It's been about sort of that juxtaposition of those energies, and culminating in the human aspect of we're not good enough. We're just not good enough. But let me tell you something. Of course, you know me and the glass half full type of guy. Of course we are. Of course we are. And you cannot throw out the baby with the bathwater, okay? Just my little soapbox moment. Again, we're not talking politics tonight, so don't call me and want to talk about any of that, okay? I'm just giving you an example of this stuff that was bombarding me today and like stressing me out a little bit. Not real stress, just more annoyance type stress. Just like, yeah, I'm going to have to listen to more podcasts and more music, because it drives me nuts to people talking about this stuff. But anyway, okay. So is it possible then that this is exactly what we're made to do? Is this exactly the place where we're supposed to be in that cycle, this spiritual singularity, as I'm calling it, of not trusting ourselves now because the old ways were never good enough, because we're always changing, we're always growing, and we always want to become something else, something new. But also in the same sense, is this what we're supposed to be? Is this what got us here? And as you know me, half glass full, like I always say. And by the way, one foot in both worlds. Generation X has a special place historically, I believe. And I'm not saying, any other generation is not also special. I'm saying in the sense that when I grew up, people my age, our age, if you guys are many, you're probably close to my age as well. There was no internet. There was no access to any of this stuff, this technology. And so the old ways were the stories. The old ways were, Star Wars. And imagine what it was like. Let's go back to the 80s for just a second, for those of you that weren't there and didn't experience it like I did. And I mean this in the nice way. I'm not lecturing anybody. Yeah, before the internet, right? Exactly, Matzell. And so the thing was, remember when there were those like dark years where there was no Star Wars? But you had like Return of the Jedi ended, and there was nothing. There was years and years and years, and we were talking late 80s, and it was just a whole lot of missing hope, or you know what I mean? The old not A New Hope. A New Hope was 1977, and so what was it? Jedi was 83, so let's say 86, 87. It had been years since the last Star Wars movie came out, and it was not a twinkle in George Lucas's eye to even do anything other than that stupid Star Wars special, right? You guys see that one on TV with the Ewoks and Chewbacca. It's a little silly. But in any case, you get my meaning. It was sort of like the dark days because there was no internet, because there was no fan fiction. There was no any of this stuff. Even what do they call them? Creepy pastas. What do they call that? I don't even know. Like, romantic fan fictions with Wookiees and Ewoks. It didn't exist. You just couldn't get it. You couldn't find it. And there were some dark days, meaning sort of a dearth of creativity flowing because of the technology. But also it forced you to be your own creative spark, your own creative asset. And you had to do things to entertain yourself, okay? And some of those things were dumb 80s things. And some of them are foundational to who I've become, to what you've become, to what we've become as a society. But then, of course, now we look at this in sort of this spiritual singularity sense, and it's all the way back to where we are today, 2024. And is this exactly where we're supposed to be? Still fighting over the old ways, still fighting over the new ways, even though these ideas, as we always say, as we always consider, there's nothing new under the sun. And is that exactly the point I'm trying to make? That all of this stuff is really, from the very beginning, the primordial human is us, collectively, still seeking this spiritual singularity. And of course, I'm calling this a seasonal cyclical reformation for obvious reasons, but that's what's on my mind tonight. A lot here, as usual, look, nonlinear, open-ended conversations, but it's just odd to me that here we are, here we go again, here we go again. Everybody at each other's throats and being mad, and it's just... It does get to me in the annoying sense. Like I do have sort of a psychic shield these days because I don't have to stick with any of the rest of this stuff because I know I can just turn it off. But I do take it seriously that I try and keep my ear to the ground in terms of the pulse of the rhythm of humanity itself. At least in my neck of the woods, I can't do that for the entire world, but at least here, keep my ear out for what's happening on the ground around us. But anyway, so do you think this is exactly where we're at? Exactly where we should be? And this spiritual singularity is always in motion, and it even goes back to the idea of that Martin Luther Zen, and this sort of it's an old lyric from an old song from 1986, and it is meaning that this is exactly what we've always done, this sort of spiritual singularity, reformation after reformation after reformation, creating, well, whatever we expect to see next. Do you think that's where we're at? And there's a lot more that we'll get to tonight because there's a lot of ways to consider this and look at it. But the phone was attached to the wall. Exactly. The phone was, see, Matzell's got it. The phone was attached to the walls. As some of you whippersnappers don't even know what we're talking about. You're like, yeah, old people, ha, 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 right? And it's like, well, yeah, the phone was attached to the wall. so yeah, you get a phone call at dinner, and you got to go talk to your crush or whatever on the phone, with everybody sitting there listening to every word you said because there was no privacy because the phone was attached to the wall. Anyway, the funny stuff from the 80s, but just wild to consider that maybe this is exactly where we're at tonight. And I don't know, is it where we're supposed to be? is really becomes part of the question. Is this a spiritual singularity real, not, or somewhere in between? And that's what's on my mind tonight. How far off am I? And are you also bothered by these election cycles? And of course, let's say more esoterically, do you think it is a real thing that Washington, D.C. was built on a conjunction of ley lines? And I'll talk a little bit about that as well, because it's important to the case here. But I do think that there's, as usual, a lot more happening that remains to be seen. The world of the unseen. And so we try and feel this through our intuition. What does it mean? How deep does it go? And are we literally always tearing something down to rebuild it in a new vision of modernity? You tell me. Love to hear your thoughts. Phone lines are down. We are taking your calls on Discord. TroubledMinds.org. Click the Discord link. Love to hear your thoughts on this. How do you feel? As just a State of the Union style. And do you think that one day we'll maybe sort of step out of this spiritual quest for singularity and maybe just chill out for a little bit? Love to hear your thoughts. Be right back. More Troubled Minds coming up. TroubledMinds.org. Click the Discord link. We'll see you there. More on the way. Welcome back to Troubled Minds. I'm your host, Michael Strange. We're streaming on YouTube, Rockfin, Rumble, Twitter, and Twitch. We are broadcasting live on the Troubled Minds radio network. That is KUAP Digital Broadcasting. Tonight we're taking your calls on Discord, TroubledMinds.org. Click the Discord link. As we talk about this spiritual singularity, this cyclical Reformation, meaning that if you look at any point in history, it's always contentious. There's always, infighting. There's always outfighting with other, not just, let's say, court battles with the Jester and John Dee. There's also battles of other kingdoms and other areas and other ideas. And it does make you wonder, like, why and when we'll ever stop fighting, if we'll ever stop fighting. Not the why, definitely the why. But it seems like there's, again, we're battling for something. We're battling for supremacy of what exactly? And sometimes it's ideas. You see some of these ideological folks that just can't drop it. They just can't let it go, right? They just can't, for even a moment, consider that they might be wrong about something. And, ego, it seems like that may be the spark, the catalyst of, 1,000 dooms or 1,000,000 dooms, just because we're so sort of hardwired to be built into that, my experience is the only experience, even though logically it's a massive fallacy, but still we fight to death like it for these ideas, for these political knuckleheads, these liars and thieves that try and make us believe things that are not true. And even look, in our heart of hearts, we know these things are not true, and still we like join the revelry. We go pick up the political dueling weapon and call into shows and get mad and shake our fist. And for what, though? It seems like it is back to the spiritual singularity. And I guess if I got to boil it down to one single thing, it is probably our ego, that spiritual singularity that we're always stripping down. We're always rebuilding in a new form and suggesting that it's better than the old form. But, as you would expect from me, I can see it both ways. I can see value in the old ways. I can see value in technology. And is it so hard to really realize that both of these things can work together, work in conjunction through us, that we are sort of the catalyst bridging these two amazing things in this time slice of ours? It doesn't seem ridiculous to me to consider that we are that special, actual singularity, and that we can bridge these ideas and help each other instead of tearing each other down. And anyway, it's just also disgusting to me. But anyway, back to this. So let's make the case here for again. Love to hear your thoughts. I know this is a tough one because it's kind of a little rambling all over the place, but it's where my mind's at right now. I was a little rambling all over the place last night too, but that's okay. I know you forgive me. I forgive myself, and I've already moved on to the rambly version of myself tonight. Check this out. So Washington, D.C. hums with an unseen pulse. Beneath its bustling surface, ancient ley lines thrum with unseen energy, subtly influencing the tides of political upheaval and societal change. But the hidden currents extend far beyond mere geography. Artists, attuned to the universe's subtle hum, weave patterns from seemingly disparate phenomena, crafting prophecies that echo not just of elections and cultural shifts, but of a profound human evolution, which is exactly what we're talking about tonight, this spiritual singularity. This evolution, they predict, is cyclical, resonating with whispers of UFO sightings and ancient mysteries, driven by archetypal forces and interwoven with the very fabric of the cosmos. This is not your typical political expose tonight, of course. It's a dive into the unseen currents shaping our world, a glimpse into a reality where the lines between fact and fiction blur, and imagination becomes the key to unlocking the future. And that's Gemini, by the way. I'm reading it, the chunk of this, because Gemini wrote this super fast tonight, and it's good. I'm not sure it's amazing, but it's good. I just messed with it for a little bit. But anyway, so imagine elections, and this is where we get wild and weird. Imagine elections as cosmic lightning storms, their energy crackling through ancient pathways, influencing outcomes and triggering unsettling glimpses into other dimensions. Witness the rise of artistic expression as a form of prophecy, where paintings, sculptures, and even intricate narratives become living mirrors reflecting the shape of things to come. And that's where we are tonight. Of course, it does the old grand. You are joining the grand dance of human evolution, guided by whispers from the past. And so here's the thing. Now, regarding this, as usual, if they can use this energy to sort of surge these sort of the primal emotions of people, again, maybe through this lane line conjunction, and I'll take us there in a moment, and why Washington, D.C. makes a lot of sense for it. But if they can use this stuff to sort of build a fever pitch, okay, then certainly we can sort of harden ourselves against these energies somehow, okay? And this is what I've been working very hard to do personally, because if I can't sort of shield myself from the outside world in terms of, noise and anything else, I wouldn't be doing this, that's for sure. The slings and arrows and the criticisms and the people, just the drive-bys taking a shot at you, meaning not a real shot, but taking a metaphorical shot at you, this type of stuff. Like, look, whatever. I just don't care anymore. Like, that type of stuff doesn't bother me. It may have when I was 10 or even 20 or even, dare I say, 30, but that's a long time ago. And, I'm a grown man now, and why am I going to worry about what some knucklehead says? Go do something you like. Don't hang out here and be mad. But anyway, so point is that all of this stuff is sort of I guess these conversations for me are really sort of that shielding mechanism. And the question for you guys is, do you feel that too? Sort of this surge of energy. Are people around you sort of becoming politically charged? And is it almost like waking up Frankenstein with like the lightning and it's alive, like this type of thing? Is this how we're feeling, or is this again just me too much radio mic, back off the political talk radio? By the way, the Nevada caucus is tonight for the GOP, and that's why it's sort of culminating in this madness today. But I don't really care, to be honest. Like I said, it's just so stupid. But anyway, okay, so here we go. So and the weird part is, if they can use this against us, this sort of idea of ley lines in Washington, D.C., surging energy and kind of manipulating us and being part of this, maybe there's a reason for these 4-year election cycles. Maybe this is exactly why. Maybe it sort of coincides with these maybe natural cycles that are something that's more astrological than political. And so they've found a way to sort of align not just the geography, but also possibly the astronomy and the cosmos and maybe all of this stuff to for a fever pitch of this is the most important election of your life, right? And this whole bit that they tell us every damn year, even in a non-election year, this crap you hear, right? But anyway, so the shielding, okay, and if they can use it against us, surely we can block it. And I think one way is just to ignore them. But then, of course, who was it that said this? Some ancient Greek said something to the effect of, you can ignore politics, but at some point, politics will take an interest in you. And so that becomes the problem. That becomes a problematic thing. And not just now, but historically, of course, because we're talking back to the time of probably Thermopylae, somewhere in that range. I can't remember the individual who said that. But anyway, okay, so back to this now. Now, the case, what do you guys think? Like I said, if I'm off all over the place, that's okay. Like I said, I know you forgive me, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Are you feeling similar to what I'm feeling? Is it? Do you think we are sort of tearing down our old spirituality to build a new one continually and constantly? And this idea of the old Reformation, all the way back to when did this happen? Oh, I don't know, a long ass time ago with Martin Luther and the rest of this back in let's say the 1500s. Do you think this is exactly what we're always doing? Just building and rebuilding these religious ideas to again, as we always talk about, meet the new gods. Guess what? They're the same as the old gods, right? This whole bit. Shout out Night Stalker on that one too. I mean, maybe this is where we're at. We're always sort of dissatisfied with the divinity we've built within us, and so we're always trying to trash it and then build it in a new form, which would explain a lot of the sort of similar pantheons the world over, all the different cultures sort of looking in sort of the same spaces for nature deities and things like this. I don't know, but and that becomes the thing that we're talking about here, this spiritual singularity. And is it possible that it's a real thing? Love to hear what you think. Of course, troubleminds.org, click the Discord link. The phone lines are down unless I can fire them up in some sort of actual miracle here, but I don't think they work. But anyway, so that's what's up. That's what's on my mind tonight. And back to this. Now, the idea of, and this was what sparked it all, just the idea that Washington, D.C. is built on these ley lines. And there's some sort of, let's say, deeper secret there, some sort of a secret society that was built not just as they say the great experiment of the United States of America, but then also beyond that, a greater, more grand experiment of something cosmic, something quite a bit more, something transcendent somehow. And I don't mean that like America, grab the flag and go stand out in the storm in your boxer shorts. I mean in sort of a cosmic way, sort of a way to, again, strip down these old ideas and rebuild them into this new spiritual singularity that we all experience. And maybe, just maybe. So anyway, let's see. Let's go here. How about this? So legends whisper of passed down through the generations of hidden societies guarding this particular knowledge that I just discussed there. Perhaps the city's layout, Washington, D.C., and sort of that reverence I was talking about, the Masonic stuff and the weird angles and all the rest of the stuff they did. But not just the city's layout, the placement of key buildings, even the symbolism woven into its architecture weren't merely aesthetic choices. And you see a lot of this stuff, again, in the obelisks and, mirroring not just, let's say, ancient Greece, but also aspects of ancient Egypt, this type of thing with the Washington Monument, and there's just a lot of really weird things, right? But are these, and is it possible these are subtle nods to the unseen forces beneath, attempts to channel their power into the nation's destiny somehow? And what I mean is this ley line effect. And like I said, it's the first time I heard specifically that somebody said, "Oh yeah, it's because DC's built on ley lines." And this guy's running for office. This is the funny part. The guy that kind of started this conversation in my mind was talking about the fact that because DC is built on ley lines, and I was like, whoa, what? Like, this is supposed to be some sort of knucklehead political discussion, and then the guy started with ley lines, and my mind about blew. So there was that, right? There was definitely that, and I was like, okay, well, maybe we're onto something here. This is going to be fun. And of course, then the knucklehead host was like, "Let's talk about Donald Trump. Let's talk about Donald Trump." It's like, oh God, there's so much more interesting things here than anyway. So what do you think? Is it possible? Is any of this stuff possible? And am I way off base? But back to the actual case here, and making the case for why the idea sort of fits with these ley line conjunctions being built underneath Washington, D.C. So not just the whispers of this, and again in the new way with these the QAnon shaman saying these things, but also consider this. As I stated, the Washington Monument, for instance, the phallic obelisk reaching towards the heavens, mirroring the energetic thrust of the ley lines themselves, which is exactly what we've been talking about tonight. The Capitol building, situated at the nexus of several lines, pulsates with the collective will of the nation. Again, back to the situation that happened, unfortunately, at the Capitol. Was its location chosen to amplify this will, to resonate with unseen currents and amplify the reach of, let's see, that resonance, that idea of, and I don't even know, is it even democracy anymore? It seems like they've broken that down and broken that stick over their knee and threw it in the fire a long time ago. It just sort of breaking down this old idea, once again, the old idea of a democratic republic, because it's old, and let's just throw in the fire and rebuild it because we can do things way better now. Right? We're smarter, we're more modern, we've got this technology, we can do all these things. We can build a democratic singularity. You see what I mean? In any case, but back to the spiritual singularity, I think that's what it comes all back to. It comes back to that idea of just tearing things down to rebuild them and to be dissatisfied still. You see what I mean? So instead of that, is it too difficult to ask to consider that maybe be present in the moment and be satisfied with what we have, and consider carefully before we decide to burn things down. And that means our religions, that means our belief systems, that means our family actual commitments, and I mean our old friends. It just it just feels like we're kind of stuck in this aspect of the power spot of manipulation, and this is it again, reaching a fever pitch. And after this, I won't really do this immediately because like I said, it's on my mind tonight because of the idea of the situation of the caucuses today in Nevada and a bunch of that stuff. So just pointing it out that that's why it's sort of a fever pitch in my mind, just because everybody's talking about it. It's just on every damn radio channel, except for the one guy that talked about ley lines on the real radio. I couldn't believe it. I almost lost my mind. I was like, yes, now we're talking. And then the knucklehead host was like, like a Muppet. And I was like, oh, okay, stop. Okay, I can't do this. Anyway, so what are your thoughts here? Again, is it possible, again, not just the ley lines in Washington, D.C., but the idea of this spiritual singularity that we're always destroying to rebuild in, let's say, in a more perfect form? See what I did there with the verbiage, a more perfect form. And because of course there's no such thing as perfect, or is there? I don't know. And that becomes, again, philosophically a conundrum and wildly fascinating to me, maybe boring to you. But I don't know. Do you think we are sort of stuck in this cycle of destroying the old ways, specifically to build the new way, because we're better and smarter than we were? So surely we know better than those knuckleheads, 270 years ago. And surely we know better than the knuckleheads 1,000 years ago, because we're modern humans, damn it. Hear us roar.